The darkness inside the vampire's helmet smelled of ozone, copper, and my own terror. Pinning her against the damp earth, my hands locked onto her bodies, pinning her down by the waist. "What are you doing?" Lily hissed, a sudden furious crimson flushing through her flawless porcelain skin. "Get your filthy hands off me, you dynamic pig!" "Not a pig," I wheezed through my shattered teeth, my ribs screaming from her previous strikes. "I'm a rat." With the last ounce of my strength, I triggered the fail-safes pinned to my chest. One blinding flash, one chemical sulfur trap, my final sonic distortion ball. I let the stone smash down over my eyes to steal out the world, squeezing her against me as a combined detonation tore through the narrow corridor of the maze. Her body convulsed, twisting in a violent spasm of overloaded senses, while the kinetic backwash turned my internal organs into a bag of minced meat. 1 week earlier, for 4 hours every single day, Alice put me through hell, running until my lungs bled, stretching until tendons threatened to snap, reaction drills, and danger endurance. She was molding me into something that could survive, while Patricia ignored my existence entirely. I remember a moment I tried to corner Patricia in the cobblestone corridors of the Opera Academy, seeking a single word of guidance. She had stopped, turning her gaze to meet mine directly. Her eyes were a cold, disapproving emerald, completely void of warmth they once held. "Stop thinking about her," Alice snapped, bringing me back to the damp floorboards of the cabin. "I can," I grunted, pushing myself through another set of presses. "Everything I'm doing is for her. She put me in this pit. Now I have to become strong enough to protect her. Whether she loves me or not, I don't care. I won't let them do whatever they want to her." "Oh, darling," Alice said, her voice laced with a bitter ancient cynicism. "In this world, they can do whatever they want to anybody. And they will." She suddenly lunged forward, the silver tip of her rapier flashing into low light. "Rats run and escape, Stuart. You're being a very bad rat today." The blade bit like cold winter teeth. Slash! A thin line of crimson bloomed across my forearm. She was a master with steel, her movements an elegant dance of calculated violence. "Alice, thank you," I muttered, holding my arm as the blood began to seep through my fingers. "For helping me. I don't know what would become of me without you." For a fraction of a second, the tip of her rapier wavered. I could swear I saw the hard lines of her face soften, a faint flush rising beneath her pale skin. But it passed so quickly, I knew it must have been a trick of the lamplight. Her expression hardened, and she drove the blunt pommel of the blade directly into my bruised shoulder, sending me to my knees. "Rats don't talk, Ernesto," she commanded coldly. "You are my rat. Until I tell you perform a trick, you scurry. You escape until I am done pursuing you." I had naive thoughts when I first entered the Vampire Academy. I envisioned it as a crucible of opportunity, a place to forge a legendary future. Instead, it was a constant predatory menace that made me regret every single breath I drew since accepting the invitation. By Friday, Alice summoned me to her airblore workshop. The air inside smelled heavily of sulfur, crushed garlic, and dried hemlock. The mechanics are simple, Stuart, she explained, assembling small compact spheres on the wooden table. Earth, highly unstable powder, and a chemical propellant, but your execution must be flawless. The vampire's helmet gives you absolute sensory defense, but it builds your awareness until you activate your arsenal. She lined up the three distinct weapons. The sonic distortion bolts. These must go first. They tear apart their equilibrium, ruining their balance and reaction time. If a vampire spots a projectile, their instinct is to close their eyes and back away. You must shatter their perception before you ever try to blind them. The soulful garlic traps. Once their inner ear is broken and they're dizzying, use this. The concentrated essence saturates their olfactory nerves, inducing massive cognitive stress and breaking their fighting form, the blinding flash. The final piece. You only use this when the predator has completely cornered you. Alice leaned over the table, her yellow eyes burning into mine. You have exactly 3 shots. You will only pull off this trick once in the maze, so you must deploy them in a single fluid sequence at distinct intervals. A ghoul's senses are hyper-attuned, which means the agony of the overload will be multiplied tenfold. Once he's down, you run for the judges, but make sure the beast is completely unconscious, or they will never grant you the victory. She dismissed me for the weekend, ordered me to rest my battered muscles. I followed her instructions to the letter. Monday arrived, cold and overcast. The vanguard led our cohort deep into the forgotten sectors behind the academy. An ancient overgrown topiary maze whose stone-reinforced hedges rose 20 feet into the air. Only Team 18, Captain Phoenix, and 3 high-ranking judges stood at the threshold. Artemis arrived clad in a brilliant lacquered blue plate. Claudia wore sleek polished white armor that caught the pale light. I stood between them, wearing nothing but my worn traveling clothes, carrying a heavy leather satchel across my shoulder. You're remarkably confident, arriving at a vanguard filtration test without nothing. Phoenix sneered, checking his gauntlets. I have no gold. I came here with what I could forge, nothing more than this bag of trinkets. None of the judges objected, meaning the rules of engagement were simple. Anything goes. A wave of bitter regret washed over me. I should have begged Lance or Patricia for an anti-vampire pistol, but it was far too late for a hindsight. I had Alice's designs, and they were my final bastion. I looked forward at the 3 judges. 2 were women, one tall, dangerously slender, with straight blonde hair and a silk gown blacker than charcoal. The second was short, thick-set, with dark tan skin and calculating amber eyes. The third was a man who commanded the clearing by his presence alone. He was dark-skinned, broad-shouldered, and possessed an elegant, nocturnal beauty that made my skin prickle with instinctual terror. My name is Lord Oscar, of the Blue Tower in A Coruña. The male judge announced, his voice like a velvet over iron. Today, we test our worthiness against the vanguard's elite. Artemis, step forward. Artemis complied, his blue armor clinking. You will face Draco, a prominent vanguard commander from my ranks in northwest Spain. He's a winged variant, a true company leader. Lord Oscar gestured, and a colossal vampire stepped from the dark of the maze. He was built like an iron bull, tall as an orchard tree, wearing jagged obsidian plate. The beast growled, spitting a glob of black bile onto the grass. We have coated your armor in a green pheromone ink, Artemis. It is a scent he's particularly fond of hunting. Oscar turned his gaze to Gloria. Gloria, you will face one of our Duke's personal bodyguards, Blanca. A woman stepped out from the shadows of the hedge, clad in tight black leather and a crimson jerkin. Her skin was flawless, translucent porcelain, contrasting violently with her deep purple hair and a striking blood-red eye. You will wear the violet ink, child, Oscar murmured. Try not to weep when she catches you, because she enjoys it very much. Finally, his eyes settled on me. And you, human, you will face a personal favorite of mine. Her name is Lily. She is a Mooncrest variant, a vanguard captain. The woman stepped into the clearing. She took my breath away. Her beauty was terrifying. She wore short, dark green tunic shorts and a lace leather bodice that clung to a figure that felt hotter than the fires of damnation. Her nose was a sharp aristocratic line, and her eyes shone like polished emerald jewels in the gray morning light. Good luck to you all, Lord Oscar smiled. He flicked his wrist, splashing a vial of deep crimson ink across my chest, soaking through my fabric. The hunt is live. Before the ink could even dry, Gloria and Artemis bolted into the mouth of the maze, their boots throwing up dirt. I stood frozen for a few seconds, watching them vanish. There had been no whistle, no countdown. The lack of a structure made me realize the horror of the situation. There were no rules. Lily walked toward me, her hips swaying with a feline grace. Aren't you going to run, little boy? She asked, inspecting my satchel with a look of mild amusement. Then you should start running, her fangs lengthening slightly past her lower lip. Every instinct told me to stand my ground, to fight here in the open. But then I imagined what Alice would say. Probably tell me to stop staring at the captain's chest, frustrating out of options. I turned left, then right, then left again, sprinting until my lungs burned and the sounds of the courtyard vanished behind the dense stone hedges. I was completely lost. Through the thick foliage, I spotted a flash of white plate armor. Gloria, I gasped, rushing around the corner, throwing her hand on her heel. But when she recognized me, a soft relief smile broke across her face. Ernesto, come here. Let's team up. It felt like a stroke of divine luck. I approached her, and she reached out, taking my hand in a firm grip. Let's move, she said, her eyes scanning the dark green walls. If we stick together, they can't overwhelm us. Have you seen Artemis? No idea, I panted. Let me take the vanguard, Gloria said, drawing her short sword. I have the plate armor. You have the satchel. I take the right corner. Follow me closely so we can double team anyone who drops down on us. She began to pace forward, and I followed, a surge of gratitude warming my chest. She was finally acting like a teammate. Keep a safe distance, Ernesto, she called back over her shoulder. Our strategy relies entirely on the element of surprise. If we waste it, we're done for. She rounded the bend. Wait! I think I hear Artemis up ahead. Stay here. Let me check. As I waited at the corner, a sudden heavy dizziness washed over me. My limbs felt leaden, my vision blurring at the edges. I leaned against the stone hedge, realizing too late that the air smelled sweet, sickly sweet. The violet ink. I hadn't turned into a safe corridor. I had stepped right into the residue of her scent trial. Before I could call out, a white shadow blurred from the fog. Slash, slash. A cold blade tore through both of my forearms. I collapsed to the dirt, gasping as the blood began to pool in the dirt. Chloe stood over me, her short sword dripping with my crimson ink and my own life force. Her face was entirely devoid of emotion. I'm sorry, Ernesto, she whispered, wiping her blade. But I won't lose my sponsorship because of your dead weight. This is the vampire world. Your blood will draw every predator in this sector to this specific quadrant. Aramis is already bleeding out 3 corridors over. With both of your scents screaming through the maze, Blanca and Draco will be too distracted to find me before the trial clock runs out. Gloria, you betrayed us, I croaked, clutching my bleeding arms. Don't blame me. This is a test of survival, she replied coldly, turning her back on me. And I intend to survive. As her white armor vanished into the fog, Alice's voice echoed in the caverns of my mind. Rats don't lie down, Stuart. Rats move constantly. They climb. They run. They roll. But they never, ever stop. Rolling through the pain, I dragged myself up. I smeared the bleeding gashes on my arms with loose dirt, tearing strips from my shirt to bind them tight. If my ascent was a beacon, I had to move. I scrambled down the western path, but before I could clear the intersection, a massive iron gauntlet caught me flush under the chin. The force lifted me off my feet, sending me crashing backward into the dirt. A pair of glowing red eyes emerged from the haze. It wasn't Lily. It was Drake, the giant from northwest Spain. Well, hello, little bird, the brute rumbled, his voice like grinding milestone. Have you seen my prey? Your essence is so full, an only thrall could track you from the gates. Let me taste that warm human blood before I hunt down the blue one. He launched. I threw myself backward into a desperate roll, my heart hammering against my ribs. I couldn't let him bite me. If he turned me into a ghoul, Patricia would never look at me again. I reached into my satchel, for a sulfur ball, but I stopped myself. No, if I waste them on him, I have nothing for Lily. A stubborn warn. His obsidian armor clanking as he raised a ball. A ball of dark, crackling bunker fire ignited in his hand. Good. A quick snack before the main course. He hurled the flame. I dove under the blast, the heat scorching the hairs on the back of my neck as the stone hedge behind me exploded into rubble. I scrambled through the gap, rolling into the parallel corridor, coughing through the dust. I needed to mask the ascent. I quickly soiled my bandages with the stagnant, murky water from a nearby drainage ditch, packing it with rotting moss until the stench was vile enough to make me gag. It was a disgusting measure, but it stopped the immediate trade. Then a piercing scream echoed through the high hedges. It wasn't Claudia's calculated voice. It was a wilder, more primal sound, a melodic, terrifying laugh. Lily. I didn't hesitate. I pulled the heavy, ancient stone vampire's helmet from my back and slammed it down over my head. The world went dead. Total darkness, total silence. Fighting Alice in the controlled space of the cabin was a luxury. Out here in the maze, without a single silver of light, the helmet isolated me in an absolute void. No sound, no smell. Then, the air pressure shifted against my bare skin. A heavy fish caught me squarely in the solar plexus. The air exploded from my lungs and my knees buckled as I hit the dirt. The silhouette moved like a hurricane, her boots striking my ribs from 3 different angles. But on the fourth strike, she got careless. My hand shot out through the dark, catching the heel of her boot with a roar of pure desperation. I twisted my entire weight, driving my elbow down into her shin. A sharp gasp echoed through the stone of my helm. She fled backward, breaking my grip and vanishing into the darkness again. It was a tactical error. Now, I had no idea where she was. Before I could reset my stance, a pair of powerful arms wrapped around my waist from behind. Lifted effortlessly into the air, the world spun as she inverted my body, driving my head straight into the hard-packed earth. The stone helm took the brunt of the impact, but the vibration rattled my brain until my arms went completely limp. Lily yanked the helmet from my head, her emerald eyes flashing with malicious delight as she looked down at me. Nice helmet you have here, human. She laughed, tossing the ancient relic between her hands. Who gave this to you? Your little fledgling girlfriend? It smells like a common tavern wench. A dark, hot surge of anger washed away the distance. Alice wasn't a tavern wench. She was a lady. No, she was a queen. Give it back, I growled. I scrambled up, charging her with zero technique, trying to force her to drop the stone hill. She stepped aside gracefully, teasing me as I stumbled past. Realizing I couldn't match her speed, I turned and ran, fleeing down the straightaway until I burst into a small clearing within the topiary. Standing in the center of the path was Blanca, Claudia's opponent. She looked at me, her purple hair swaying, her red eyes narrowing in disgust. You smell like a sewer, human, Blanca said, covering her nose with a silk-gloved hand. For a moment, I thought a beast had died in these hedges, but it's just your pathetic presence. You truly know how to stand out, big pile of shit. Alice said rats get cornered. I checked my shoulder. Lily was closing fast from behind. Blanca stood in front of me. I was completely trapped. With a desperate cry, I charged Blanca. I threw a wild telegraph kick at her chest, intentionally leaving my flank wide open. She laughed, a high, mocking sound as she stepped inside my car to deliver a finishing strike. You truly are pathetic, Blanca sneered, her hand forming a claw. Trying to play the hero when you can't even. She didn't finish the sentence. As her foot planted to strike, her boot slid on the wet, moss-covered chemical residue I had secretly leaked from my satchel during my charge. Her balance shattered. As she slid forward, I drove my right knee upward with everything I had. Crack! My knee collided flush with her shin. The first fractured the bone, but the recoil shattered my only joint in a burst of white-hot agony. Blanca dropped like a stone, completely unconscious. I collapsed beside her, clutching my ruined leg, a scream tearing from my throat as the sheer pain threatened to black out my vision. The leaves rustled. Lilia stepped into the clearing, her emerald eyes widening as she looked from me to the unconscious form of Duke Mari's personal bodyguard. How did a worm like you manage that? She murmured, her amusement fading onto genuine irritation. I let a sulfur bomb slip from my fingers, rolling into the dirt between us. I tried to push myself up on my one good leg, but my knee buckled, sending me face first into the soil. Lily walked over, looking down at me with absolute contempt. Look at you. You still think you can run away? You still think a mere mortal can slow and outwit the vanguard? Dragging my body by my forearms, I pulled myself toward the edge of the hedge, my ruined leg trailing behind like a dead weight. She paced me, slow and deliberate, enjoying the spectacle. Behind her, Blanca began to groan, her red eyes fluttering open. Lily paused, kneeling down to hoist the purple-haired vampire by the shoulder, hissing a sharp reprimand in her native tongue. Blanca spat blood, her eyes locking onto me with murderous intent. They were both distracted. I forced myself onto my one good foot, balancing against the stone wall, and needed my helm. Lily had dropped it near Blanca's feet when she knelt down. Step. My boot triggered the fuse of the sulfur bomb I had dropped earlier. Now. I pulled two sonic distortion bolts from my satchel, hurled them directly at the two vampires, and slammed my hands over my ears. The detonation was deafening. The concussive wave hit me so hard the air pressure forced blood into my mouth. The two vampires shrieked, their hands flying to their ears as their balance disintegrated. I rolled through the dirt, scrambling on three limbs like a wounded gutter rat, dirty, bleeding, and desperate. I crawled through the next intersection until I saw a flash of blue plate armor. Aramis stood there, holding my stone vampir's helm by the leather strap. Is this yours? He asked, his voice shaking. I nodded quickly, unable to speak. He tossed the heavy relic into my lap, turned, and bolted down the opposite corridor, his blue armor disappearing into the shadows like a ghost. I cradled the helm under my good arm, dragging myself forward until I reached the next clearing. My heart stopped. Claudia was there, her white armor cracked, pinned in the massive arms of Draco. The giant was lifting her by the throat, preparing to drink her. Artemis was watching from the tree line, his sword drawn, but his legs frozen in terror. I should have left her. She had cut my arms and left me for dead. For if Draco turned her, she would become a ghoul, and that would end her bond with her sponsor. If that happened to me, I would be very sad. Close your eyes! I screamed at Artemis. I pulled my second blinding flash from the bag and smashed it against the stone floor, pulling the vampire's helm over my face in the same motion. A brilliant white light seared through the cracks of the hedges. Through the visor, I watched Draco and Claudia drop to the ground, crawling at their eyes and wailing in agony. I ripped the helm off, swung the heavy stone relic like a club, and brought it down hard across Draco's exposed temple. He went limp. In the same swing, I caught Claudia across the helmet, knocking her out cold before she could recover her senses. I grabbed Artemis by his blue pauldrons, pulling him toward to the center of the maze where the trial had begun. What have you done? Artemis gasped, his eyes wide with horror as he stumbled beside me. She's our teammate. She was going to betray you the second she had the chance. I snarled, spitting blood. She already did it to me. You shouldn't have done that, Artemis muttered, his aristocratic pride flaring despite his terror. A true man will never leave a woman defenseless with an enemy. I am no man, Artemis, I whispered, pushing him ahead into the central clearing. I told you, I am a rat. I collapsed onto the grass of the main courtyard, my satchel empty, my body broken. Lord Oscar and the other two judges stood on the raised platform, their expressions unreadable as they looked down at my blood-soaked, mud-caked frame. I yield, I panted, throwing my hands up. I surrender. From the mouth of the maze, Lily emerged. Her green tunic was torn, her hair wild, her emerald eyes burning with an ancient predatory fury. There is no yielding in the filtration, boy, she hissed, her fangs fully extended. There is only the master and the throne. Alice is not a wench, I muttered to myself. As Lily charged, I didn't try to run. I waited until she closed the distance, her powerful arms reaching out to break my neck. Instead of dodging, I threw my weight forward, pouring my face into her chest, my hands locking tightly around her waist to pin her arm against her flanks. What are you doing? She gasped, her face turning crimson as she tried to wrench herself free from my grip. Get off me, you dynamic pig. No, I whispered, triggering the final array of traps pinned to my vest. I am a rat. I pulled the vampire's helm down over my skull just as the final blinding bomb, the sulfur trap, and the sonic ball detonated simultaneously between our chests. The kinetic shockwave was absolute. I felt my ribs splinter under the pressure. The sound inside the helm, a dull, roaring thud that nearly took my consciousness, but I didn't let go. I squeezed her with every ounce of muscle I had left until the thrashing stopped. When the smoke cleared, I let the heavy stone helmet fall from my face. Lily lay beneath me on the grass. Her emerald eyes rolled back, completely unconscious. I looked down at her, my vision failing. Alice is not a wench. I croaked into the silence of the courtyard. She is a lady. And you have a much larger chest than her. Now I know how her should feel. My arms gave out and I collapsed into the dirt beside her. As the darkness finally took me, a wave of regret washed over me for the thoughts running through my mind. Thank you so much for having watched Chapter 9 of the Vampire Bonds. It was Chapter 9, Regret. I hope you really like it. Hope you really enjoy it. Ernesto is becoming such a badass. I mean, he's so dumb. He's becoming such a badass. He's so cool. The way he struggles to be this gentleman, this chivalrous knight, uh, meanwhile being this kind of weird, pervy adolescent teenager is so funny because his emotions are all over the place. His um, desires are all over the place, and his love for Patricia is also very present to his life. But the most interesting thing is that he's discovering he's actually very, very powerful, and that his resilience is his most incredible asset. So I hope you really enjoyed it because it took me forever to write it, and it took me an eternity to record it because I couldn't stop laughing at some moments, and in other moments, my tongue was like making so many twists. I was like, oh my god, this is so difficult. I would thank you so much if you were so kind to leave me a thumbs up and a comment. It was Anil Castro. These were the Vampire Bonds Chapter 9, Regret, and I will see you on the next one. I hope Ernesto behaves a lot more because in this chapter, the ending was very, very well from his side because he's finally admitting somehow that he truly likes Alice, and that's so betrayful from him. And his Patricia relationship, it's this is becoming so chaotic right now.